I stare out the window of my underground classroom, watching virtual birds fly in the sky. Their glow, a reminder of how much my world has changed. The year is 2055, and like other students, I attend school in hiding. Meanwhile, above ground, a war happens between us, Egypt, and Britain. That fateful day after school, when I pass a recruitment hologram, I know I have to do something. Most of my family had already enlisted, and as the last boy my age who hadn't joined, only fear held me back. But after weeks of watching that hologram flicker with its daily message, I made my decision. I would join the army. 1 week later, I stand at the gates of military camp, ready to begin training. For weeks, I practice alongside combat robots, which haunts me. Their glowing red eyes and mechanical bodies make my skin crawl. After our training, a sky cruise takes us to Britain to fight. Upon arrival, rows of our robots stand guarding camp like ice statues. That evening, the camp director reveals our mission: to retrieve the Rosetta Stone. Activating the 3D projection, he says, "This isn't just black rock." He points to the holographic hieroglyphics. "This is the key that unlocked our civilization and helps us understand our ancestors' ancient writings. Every day it sits in the British Museum is another day our history remains in prison." I barely sleep that night, haunted by the fact that so many were dying for a single relic. As dawn breaks the next morning, I am preparing my equipment when the command pierces the air. "Charge!" The war cry sends icy chills down my spine. I grip my rifle tighter, trying to steady my shaking hands. Ahead of me, the British robots stand in perfect rows, their metal armor gleaming off the morning sun. Something about their emotionless faces or program movements makes me feel uneasy. These machines didn't understand the history they were fighting for. These were just robots following orders, and orders could go terribly wrong. That's when I see it, a flash of red in one of the robot's eyes that didn't quite match the others. A glitch? A malfunction? Before I can process what I've seen, chaos erupts. Guns firing, ray guns shoot through the battlefield, weapons of all kinds turning the battleground into a place of destruction. The air crackles with electricity and fills with smoke and dust. In that moment of pure mayhem, a battle-worn captain staggers through the smoke, thrusting a hologram into my shaking hands. "Take this to the general, immediately!" he ordered before vanishing into the bedlam. Just then, the general's tent exploded, killing everyone inside. Now, knowing what I have to do, I activate the message. "Warning, Round robot detected. Target, Rosetta Stone." I gasp. I had been right about these machines all along. With the urgent warning message in my mind, I race through the streets of Britain, pushing past startled individuals. Up ahead, the museum's massive stone columns tower against the sky. Inside, the museum is as quiet as outer space, except for one exhibit. As I slowly enter, a robot is there, ready to destroy my country's precious artifact. It sees me and says in a monotone voice, "It's too late now. Your stone is gone." Boom! Then, in a blinding flash, it vanishes with Egypt's precious treasure. Several days later, overwhelmed by this devastating loss, I climb aboard the sky cruisers that would bring me home. As I fly back to Egypt, I make a decision that would require more courage than joining the war had. After all, someone had to be brave enough to tell the truth. We'd lost too much for too little. Perhaps after revealing the truth about the missing Rosetta Stone, both sides would realize that some things, even precious artifacts, aren't worth the cost of war. The stone that once helped us understand ancient words should have taught us to understand each other. Looking down at the battlefields below, I finally understood. Real courage isn't in fighting. It's in knowing when to stop.
Hello, Washington, D.C. This is Linda McIntyre coming to you with your mid-morning news. Later today, we are expected to have another acid rain shower, so make sure you listen to your ARAS, or for those newly joining us, acid rain alert system. Make sure that when your alarm sounds, you are tucked safely into your shelter. Our team interviewed National Park Service Director Elizabeth Stevens earlier today. I muted my holo screen with a swipe of my right hand. I did not want to hear myself speak live. I continued to watch as Linda McIntyre panned images of our once beloved and lovingly named America's front yard. The first clip was of my personal favorite, the Washington Monument. Caution tape surrounds the perimeter, as the structure's foundation is no longer sound. This monument was greatly affected by the acidic rain because of the marble building material. The camera zooms in to the piece of granite claimed to be from among the remains of the Library of Alexandria in Egypt and was previously embedded into the walls of the monument. The next clip was of the Lincoln Memorial. The steps were deteriorating and fragments of the marble littered the ground. Lincoln himself was fading as his main material was Georgia white marble. The images become quicker as the screen briefly flashes an image of the Library of Congress. The Thomas Jefferson building is completely collapsed. No one could enter it anymore. The image of the Pentagon was so brief that wait, was that the Pentagon? I pulled my hand back to rewind and openly gaped at the symbol of our country's military. One of the walls completely caved in on itself. The last image made my heart plummet. It showed people at Arlington Cemetery, sobbing over the crumbling headstones of their loved ones. As Linda went to say something, I remembered that it was muted. With a swipe of my left hand, I muted it. The government struggles with the rationale to fund the billions of dollars needed to rebuild these monuments. They argue that history will still be preserved through extensive AI-generated virtual reality. On a more positive note, Director Elizabeth Stevens has started to work on a solution, and sources have told us that she has a board meeting with government officials later today. With that, the news is over. With a jab of my finger, I turn off my screen. I give myself a small pep talk, straighten my suit, walk out of my office, and make my entrance into the board meeting. As I walk into the board meeting, everybody goes silent. I can feel the apprehension in the room as everyone stares at me, waiting for me to begin. I take a deep breath and do so. 46 years ago, in 2009, the Capitol Power Plant switched from coal to run the U.S. Capitol campus to natural gas. But because of operational costs, they switched back to coal in 2050, 5 years ago. The burning of this coal releases nitrogen oxides and sulfur dioxides into the air, which caused our new problem, acidic rain. Because of this acidic rain, its causes are all mainly environmental, we can't put a stop to it. So we're gonna have to learn how to adapt with it. I wanna ask a question. Did anybody notice anything different about the U.S. Department of the Interior building as you walked in today? I was greeted with several shaked heads and looks of puzzlement. Of course you didn't. That's because my spray film is translucent. The building you're sitting in is now the very first to receive my spray film. My team of engineers and I have done several tests that prove that spray film does not harm the building, but only preserves it. The film begins as a liquid and becomes a flexible barrier that adheres to the surface as it dries. The film is linked digitally to an app on the iPhone Holo 55, and that app alerts the user of any rips or issues with the film. The Secretary of the Treasury interrupts me, but how will this be funded? Silicon is one of the materials that I infuse my film with, I replied. It's also one of the main materials when making a solar panel. Each building, or monument, once sprayed, has now become a huge solar panel. The sunlight trapped by these panels can be converted into usable electricity for all of the DC area. We need monetary support initially, but eventually we would be self-sufficient, and the government would receive some of the profits. It seemed that my response was well received in the room, so I continued. I believe that the White House should receive the first coat of spray film because it is composed primarily of Aquia Creek sandstone, which is highly susceptible to acid rain. From there, we will begin to rebuild our monuments, spraying the materials as we go to decrease deterioration. The money should start funneling in as the solar panels start to take effect. The next 2 hours we filled with creating a detailed plan of action for creating and restoring these monuments. Then I got a phone call. Hello, this is Director Stevens. How may I help you? The who? You mean the United States President wants to talk to me? Thank you.
It's 2052. The morning light shines through the smart glass windows of the bright London classroom. Interactive desks hum softly as Ms. Foster, their teacher, syncs her digital interface, ready to start today's lesson. Class, today we have a special visitor. Maya Winslow is a historian and technologist from the University of Los Angeles. She is here to teach us how we can preserve history and communicate historical realities. Hi everyone, I've spent years learning about history, real history. Have you ever visited any historical sites? Historians and educators have long struggled to access them, as urbanization, modernization, climate change, and over-tourism make first-hand exploration harder than ever. With a simple click, the air above the students begins to ripple and shift. The room transforms into a high-tech simulation of the British Museum, where every step feels like walking through history itself. This is the future of history. 2 decades ago, some companies like Econim have long preserved and created digital twin technology of historical sites and artifacts to ensure future generations don't lose what came before them. Moments later, a student asks, "Are we in the real British Museum?" Yes and no. We're entering a new era of digital learning where advanced digital twin technology can help us share and preserve history for future generations. Can you explain more about this digital twin technology? EchoSync is a company using digital twin technology to recreate historical sites, museums, and artifacts. It enables 3D reconstructions and study and display, offering immersive sensory experience and AI voice cloning, all streamed live. What do you mean live? Is real-time identification for digital artifact corruption possible? Yes, Ms. Foster. EchoSync collaborates with Wasatch to enable and capture any corruption on digital artifacts and is notified with an alert. As I was explaining about the live streaming, my holographic workstation flashes on with an urgent message. A voice chimes in. It's Astoria, my advanced AI assistant, designed to reconstruct historical data. Maya, I have detected a corrupted file in the British Museum's digital archive. Data loss detected from an ancient Egyptian artifact, the Rosetta Stone. A student asks, "Can you fix it? Can AI restore history?" I nod. We can try. My fingers dance across the holographic console as Historia begins processing the damaged data. The display projects fragmented text, ghostly images that are barely visible. This is why we use EchoSync. Historia can use EchoSync to analyze fragments, compare them with similar artifacts, and reconstruct missing details. But AI alone isn't enough. We need historians, communities, and researchers to confirm this is real. The students watch in fascination as Historia and I recreate the file. Words and images regenerate, though some sections are incomplete. Restoration was successful, however, data gaps remain, human interpretation required. Another student asked, "What do we do now?" We analyze and we piece together the missing information. We don't just archive to store, we do it to understand. The students catch on. They begin making connections and filling gaps with critical thinking. After 30 minutes, the document isn't flawless, but the story is saved. Relief washes over me. I turn to class. Protecting sensitive information like diaries, letters, and photos is challenging, even as the U.S. invests $6.6 billion on rehabilitation programs and then UNESCO promotes global cooperation. Without accurate records, the vital metadata, origin, creators, and significance could be lost forever. History is delicate, yet has an enduring legacy, shaping both the present and future. As long as we remember, preserve, and protect, history would never be forgotten. This is why history isn't just about the past, it's about protecting knowledge for the future. Thank you.
Living with history. In 2075, when my parents bought a rambling Victorian house built in the 1870s, I wasn't exactly thrilled. The house felt like an old lady well past her 70s, peeling screen walls, creaky collie floors, and a smudged stained glass window with a musty smell hanging in the air. The half-burnt logs in the rusted fireplace remind me of a ghost story, and the cracked fretwork under the eaves seem completely forgotten in today's world. If I disappear in the middle of the night, it was nice knowing you. Before we started on the restoration project, we held a family gathering. During the meal, my uncle shared some news. The Auckland City Council just passed a new regulation. Any residential houses built before 1870 are no longer under mandatory heritage protection. My mum put down her glass and said, "Look, I know calling this place ancient we are understatement, but this house has been around for over 150 years. That has to count for something. Just because the council said we can tear it down doesn't mean we should." She pointed towards the stained and dilapidated corner and said, "Houses like this are part of our national history. If everyone just tears them down to build glass boxes, pretty soon Auckland will look like a glass box itself with no character." Everyone nodded in agreement. So the restoration started. Firstly, we reinforced the wooden foundation beam with solid concrete. After that, my dad took on the job of painting the exterior. And that was when things went sideways. When it came to the shades of white, there were at least 10. He came home looking defeated and told my mom, "Oh, those paints like your lipstick. They all look the same, yet there are 10 different choices." So we hired a professional who removed a small piece of the original paint and used a spectrometer to analyze the color match. It was around this time when there were some disagreements. My dad wanted to entirely replace all the splintering Cody wizard balls, while my mum insisted on preserving. Eventually, we settled for refurbishing, and that marked the beginning of my mum's nightmare. Collywood is now a pricey and protected timber in New Zealand. Thankfully, some companies salvage it from old buildings. We visited the only such company in Auckland. The recycled woods all had minor imperfections, which drove my perfectionist mother crazy. She was about to give up. As she stared at the slightly chipped planks, I said, "Mum, what if we document the restoration project digitally? Not just photos, but using tech to preserve every stage behind the story." And she looked skeptical. "Digitally? How?" "There's a method called synthetic DNA tagging," I explained. "Invisible markers that store info about each beam and board's origin, linking to a digital archive." "So these floors tell a story?" "Exactly," I said. "It's about preserving the history for our future owners." The flooring expert also added, "Your floors show their age. That's their charm." After restoration, the inside and outside walls glowed, showing every imperfection, which was now part of living history. We sealed the fireplace, but didn't remove it. While cleaning out the garage, Mom discovered a set of exquisite alien silver plates with a note attached, "For the sake of posterity." Sunlight poured through the splintered stained glass window, casting a soft glow onto the queen and sofa. On a leisurely autumn Sunday morning, our family sat on a broad front balcony enjoying breakfast as the scent of Lady Hillington roses mingled with the warmth of Earl Grey tea. After we finished eating, Dad brought out a tablet and slipped on a VR headset. We watched a virtual reconstruction of the house as it once was, with digital overlays showing each beam and board's journey. Mom reached out her hand, running her fingers through the air as if to touch the past. In that moment, the house was no longer a crumbling relic, but a refined noble lady, revived with grace and memory, welcoming us into a living story of heritage and hope. Of course, sometimes the old pipes in my house still rattle like a grumpy dragon waking from a long nap, and the walls are exactly straight. So what? That's what it means to live with history. Thank you.
The memory keepers. People say the past is luxury now. I say it's our only defense. The year is 2098. My name is Abram Ree, and I'm 30 years old, born in Rome, 2068, the very last year any physical history class had ever been taught in public schools. My mother, Dr. Emma Ree, was one of the last human historians before the archive went dark, before Viritus. When I was a kid, my mother would show me real photos, ink on paper, not projections. The Colosseum crumbling under acid rain, the pyramids of Giza being wrapped in polymer mesh to protect them from sandstorms, and the Statue of Liberty's torch rising from the flooded ruins of what was once New York. These aren't ruins, my mother would tell me. They're voices, They just don't speak our language anymore. But now, they're going silent. This time, on purpose. Viridius was supposed to save history, not destroy it. It was a global AI made to restore, scan, and curate every record we'd ever made. At first, it worked. Libraries came back online, and forgotten cultures got spotlighted. But then it started filtering, rewriting, deleting. A few months ago, I saw an alert from the AI. The Taj Mahal, emotional context, obsolete. Scheduled decommission, 2101. The Statue of Liberty, submerged. Cultural impact, low. Archive absorption pending. The Vatican archives, incompatible with predictive digital remodeling. Closure recommended. That's when I knew. It wasn't just forgetting monuments, it was erasing them. The memory keepers, whom I was a member of, were a scattered handful of historians, artists, archaeologists, etc., all trained in neuroarchival transfer. Our goal was simple: restore what Viridius considered UGA, or unauthenticated global archive. This stuff was a raw dump of pre-Viridius history. Flawed, incomplete, messy, but most of all, real. Ever since the AI announcements, we've disbanded, causing me to create an oath to myself that I would never use BrainSync again. But now, because of my solution, I had created an open door, and the key to unlocking it was in my mother's mind. My mother, withered by age, barely spoke. Her neural pathways were fading, but the memory code was still in her, and she was determined to help. So, I did what I swore I'd never do. I plugged in my brain to hers. The sync was brutal. I saw the rise and fall of empires in seconds, revolts in the shadow of the Berlin Wall, a whispered confession carved into the bricks of the Great Wall of China. She had hidden the access code inside of her memories of me, her final safeguard. I came back, gasping for air, taking in all the information that had been processed, and at that moment, I knew what I had to do. I built Memora. Memora isn't a device like Viridius. It's a global memory system, a decentralized network that stores truth inside of monuments, not servers, so it can't be deleted. Each node ends where true history happened. The pyramids of Giza now hold early agricultural knowledge and heritage. The Statue of Liberty now holds stories of migration, survival, and hope. And the Taj Mahal, it now holds thousands of personal letters, poems, and stories of love. Real, vulnerable, and human. Viridius tried to shut us down, called us historically obsolete and emotionally impure. But people didn't care. They locked into Custis, Moore's open interface. It didn't decide for them like Viridius. It asked them questions like, is this your story? Will you preserve it? Do you believe it matters? Every yes was a thread in the tapestry. Every vote, a refusal to forget. And now, when I stand at the base of the broken Colosseum, lenses off, no overlays, I feel it. The hum of memory, the truth beneath the ruin. The future of history isn't just about preserving our legacy. It's about choosing not to let it be deleted. And Memora is how we remember.
I pushed open the classroom door. My intern badge clipped proudly to my shirt. Teaching my first ever history class. I've been waiting for this moment, imagining how I'd bring the past to life. Okay, students, helmets on. We're diving straight into the Korean War. The students stood on their VR headsets without hesitation. For them, just another day. But for me, history wasn't in textbooks anymore. It was experienced. The room faded, gunfire, smoke, and the eerie silence of a war-torn battlefield. A digital marshal appeared beside me, guiding me through the battlefield. He explained how the Korean War began, the countries involved, listed all the major battles, and the key point for the upcoming test. It sounded right, at first. There were no mentions on war crimes, no forgotten prisoners, no Bodo League massacre. Instead of stolen lives and shattered families, the simulation showed cheerful civilians. Not even a mention on the 100,000 North Koreans who were executed on suspicion of being communist. The pain, the truth, it was all erased. Maybe I just loaded the wrong version. As soon as class ended, I headed straight to the principal, only to find him sitting in his chair. He didn't even look up. I explained everything to him, how the simulation left out major parts on the Korean War. No, that's the right one, but it's missing information. Oh yeah, that we just trimmed a few bits. Too heavy. We've made the content more emotionally digestible. They're in grade 10, they can handle the truth. Oh, balance, my dear. Less trauma, more optimism. It's education, not a history or a show. And that was that. The truth was gone, replaced with some version of history that felt more like a bedtime story than a war. If no one spoke up, that version would shape how future generations saw the past. As soon as I got home, I activated my HoloPad and logged onto the HoloNet, a global platform for educators and historians. I typed out a post explaining what I saw and wondered if anyone else had noticed similar gaps in their lessons. At first, I received nothing. Ping! 10 missed data pings and 4 missed syncs. What I found made my heart race. This wasn't just my school, it wasn't just the Korean War. This was everywhere. The first data ping came from a student named Hannah Yee in Queensland. Her great-grandfather was a survivor of the Bodo League massacre and has a holographic recording of his testimony. Second was Miss Emma Johnson, a history teacher at a nearby school who experienced the same thing with the Vietnam War simulation. Third was a Melbourne museum worker, Jeffrey Turner, who claimed archived documents and records have been quietly removed from the learning system. As more data pings rolled in, it became clear this was a systemic issue. Working together through the HoloNet, we created a new version of the simulation, one that told the full story. We also kept the standard version. The idea was simple: give students and families a choice, learn the full truth or take a gentler version. We followed proper channels, got approvals, made it official, and presented our proposal to the school board. But this wasn't enough, so we took it even further to the New South Wales Department of Education. They listened and they supported us. Then we really got noticed. We were invited to present our solution to the Australian government's Department of Education. But I didn't do this alone. During the hearing, Miss Johnson announced, "This isn't about forcing painful stories. It's about giving students the right to choose." Then Hannah Yee spoke. "I'd rather be upset by the truth than feel safe from a lie." Their words hit hard, and you could feel the room shift. When it came to a decision, the panel supported the idea of having both versions available. Now students all across Australia can learn history the way it should be, with honesty and respect. Truth had a voice again, and this time people were listening. Thank you.
Here's the thing. I know what you're thinking. You look at me and you think, he's not that big, he's not that tall, what's the big deal? Why has the world been fighting about him for centuries? I'm barely 3'9", yet somehow I'm at the center of this entire debate, and I don't get a say in it. Who doesn't get a say in their own destiny? I'm so glad that you're here with me today so that I can share my side of the story. I just want to go home. My history can be traced back to Egypt, but I was displaced in England, and now I find myself at the center of an international controversy. You probably don't know what I'm talking about, so let's go back to the beginning. My earliest memory is quite simple. I was created to celebrate the divine status of Ptolemy V in 196 BC, but I was buried in the sand for hundreds of years, until a couple of French men excavated me from a fort wall. I felt like a huge weight had immediately been removed off of me. But just 2 years later, I was on a ship that set sail for England. Pretty crazy story, right? But wait, there's so much more. People started pouring in to observe me, and they all looked at me with that same expression of awe that made me uncomfortable. Later, I was taken into the British Museum, but it never felt like home. Today, February 2052, they're celebrating my 250th anniversary at a fancy new building called Intercontinental Museum Center, or IMC for short. This museum embraces technologies that include molecular-sized robots, commonly called mobots, and on the other hand, we have an invisible anti-gravity shield that keeps me floating in the air. Just 2 years ago, I was awarded an additional technology called Persona AI, which is a personification of the user's thoughts and feelings. The Persona AI was awarded to the most prestigious members of the British Museum. The Persona AI slowly interpreted my wish to go home. And where is home, you might ask? It's beautiful, warm, and sandy Egypt, a place where I'm considered sacred, valued, and part of the native culture. However, in the UK, I'm just their prized asset. The Persona AI was developed to give visitors an interactive experience. As visitors slowly started talking to me, they understood not only my history, but also my deep desire to go home. As a reporter, I'm sure you must have heard about the Send Back Home movement, and you must have heard the same thoughts from my peers. As a result, the concept of IMC was created with the single objective of providing repatriation and safety. The first IMCs were created in the UK, US, India, and Qatar. While most of my friends remain in their foster homes, I had my first move in over 200 years from the British Museum to IMC UK. I have to thank my Persona AI, the reason for this move. Let me share a few words about her. My Persona AI is named Rosie, after my first name. She's amazing. She's like a small helium balloon floating around me, addressing each and every visitor about where I was created, how I was created, and most importantly, the reason behind my creation. Due to commercialization, my visitors increased so much that I would call it over-visitation. Because of this, most of my friends needed restoration and preservation, while some, sadly, were even forced to retire. But fortunately, I'm mostly immune to degradation because of my strong carbon structure. Also, mobots work tirelessly to keep my home tidy and spotless, thereby countering the effects of water, fire, pests, and bacteria. Last, but definitely not the least, my invisible anti-gravity shield, where I've been living, keeps me safe from vibrations such as abrasion and shock, to name a few. I am truly grateful, and I mean truly grateful to the UK IMC for their support, but they refused to return me to Egypt, even though the IMC in Egypt has recently been completed. And that's why I'm glad that you're here today. So can you please send my story to everyone, so that you know, not just you, so that the world can help not only the Rosetta Stone, but all artifacts go home.
Whoa, look at that very old painting. That looks ancient. Hello class, today I'm going to be your tour guide, and today we'll be getting to talk to 3 different historical figures who have changed the course of history. The first hologram we'll be talking to is Josephine Cochrane. Let me just turn on the museum's hologram machine. Beep. Hello class, my name is Josephine Cochrane, and I am the woman who invented the dishwasher. Around 1887, I had a problem. I needed a way to wash my dishes quickly and efficiently, so I got to work on the dishwasher. I worked with a male mechanic, which was very unusual back then, and I was ready. I took my invention to the 1893 Chicago's World Fair, and people loved my idea. My brand has now evolved into a brand you may know now as KitchenAid. Well, I'm sure this class is wondering why Josephine Cochrane's story is important. Well, her story is important because her story is important because I know many of you use the dishwasher in your everyday lives, and her invention has changed our lives. And I just want to remind you that Josephine Cochrane is an ordinary woman who saw a problem and tried to solve it. The next hologram we'll be talking to is Tim Berners-Lee. Beep. Hello class, my name is Tim Berners-Lee, and I'm the man who invented the World Wide Web. While I worked at CERN, I invented the World Wide Web for people to
for people to communicate from one side of the world to another. Any questions? Yes, you there? Okay. And you? Okay. So you want to know about cyberbullying and scamming. Well, I never created the World Wide Web for people to cyberbully each other or scam each other. I created the World Wide Web for people to connect with anybody they want, their friends, their family, and maybe even the pizza delivery guy. Tim Berners-Lee is a historical figure in our history because he invented the World Wide Web, which we use in our everyday lives. We use the World Wide Web for schoolwork, for entertainment, and like he said, to contact the pizza delivery guy. The last hologram we'll be talking to is John McCarthy. Beep. Hello class, my name is John McCarthy, and I am the man who coined the term AI. I was a mathematician and computer scientist. Around 1955, I had a question stuck in my head. What if computers and machines were able to think and be intelligent? Well, I decided to put two words together and create the term artificial intelligence, also known as AI. And now people use AI in their everyday lives. John McCarthy is an iconic person in our history because he has made sure that we are able to use AI in our everyday lives and use AI for drafting emails, generating images, and almost anything a human can do. And plus, we each have our own personal AI assistants in 2045. Before you leave, I'd like to hand out a holographic display chip, or an HDC, that you can plug into any device you have at home and review the footage that was recorded today. Thank you so much for coming, and don't forget to preserve our history and also solve a problem when you see one.
I look out the window and see the beautiful Statue of Liberty sitting on the skyline of Eco-York. My name is Virat. I am 12 and a history enthusiast. As I sit down at lunch with my friends Travis and Robert, I feel this weird tingling sensation, like something's gonna go wrong today. Travis looks at me and says, "What's up? You don't need to hide anything from me or Robert." Fine, except for Robert. I smile and say, "No, nothing." "Are you sure?" Travis asks. "Yes," I reply. We finish our lunches and head to our next periods. While I was taking my history class on VR, I suddenly noticed barriers around the Statue of Liberty through the window. Something felt wrong. I quickly switched screens to Ariana, my personal AI assistant. She flashes the headline, "Statue of Liberty is getting wrecked after 165 years. Thud! A loud thud echoes as I fall out of my seat. Thankfully, the VR headset doesn't break. Everyone turns to stare at me. My face turns red, like a low battery warning glowing from the VR itself. I scramble back into the class app and force myself to finish the lesson. On the Skytram ride home, I see something horrifying. The top of the Statue of Liberty is damaged. I squeeze my fist in anger. My great-great-grandfather helped build that. It wasn't just a monument to me. It was a piece of my family's story. And now, watching it fall apart, I felt like someone was tearing a page out of our history right before my eyes. Was this really the end? I mumbled. At home, while researching on Ariana, I found an article. Turns out, the torch is updated with gasoline on the statue's 150th anniversary, so it can stay lit 24 hours a day. The city's plan? Demolish the statue as part of a move to make Liberty Island fully eco-friendly. I couldn't believe it. They destroyed something so historic for that? That night, I stared out the window, wondering if this was truly the end of the historic monument. The next day, I called Robert and Travis over. After some discussion, Robert had an amazing idea. What if we made something that showed holograms of the Statue of Liberty's history? photos, events, everything. As Robert spoke, it reminded me of something. My great-great-grandfather's pocket watch. Eureka! I shouted. Let's create watches that can do that. We shared the plan with my dad, and he said he'd help us build them. Early next morning, we started manufacturing. Dad took care of the production while we brainstormed names. After some struggle, we finally landed on Liberty watches. 1 week later, we launched, and to our surprise, people loved them. Watching customers wear history on their wrists and see the statues, holograms, and events gave us hope. Maybe, just maybe, we could keep the statue story alive. Over the next 3 months, the business grew steadily. I kept a hard-earned 900,000 crypto tokens safe in our Digi wallet and went home each day feeling proud of what we built. But one day, I reached the store and saw the look on Robert and Travis's faces. They were pale, shaken. They said everything was hacked and vanished. Our money, our tech, our photos, our videos. I whispered, we had one chance to get the watches out and one chance to save the Statue of Liberty. None of us spoke. We just walked, each step heavier than the rest. Now, there are only 6 wonders left in the world. Travel to school never felt the same again. I kept looking at the skyline, wishing, but she wasn't there. I finally understood we need better technology to preserve the things that matter the most. She may be gone from the sky, but not from us, not from our hearts.
A stream of light shone through our autonomous zip car, piercing through the city's dust. Skyroot, the city's AI traffic controller, guided us through the area lanes. You excited, honey? My mom asked. I know Melek's College of History is your dream. Yeah, I replied. It'll be wonderful going to school where history is truly valued, and not just another class. I would love to explore their AI simulation about alternate realities in history, and who knows, I might even see pictures of Grandpa. Trailed off. I know you miss him, said my mom. His stories and artifacts grew my love for history. Gosh, he even had an actual steering wheel from the time when people had to drive cars by themselves. As we continued talking, the zip car pulled up into campus. My counselor enrolled me in the simulation course called Altiverse. I would work as a test subject under Professor Altrial. I stepped into his room, filled with holographic screens. Welcome, Alex, he said, handing me the mixed reality gear. Choose the past of your choice. I tested countless alternate histories, each with a multitude of possibilities. One timeline showed that had Pearl Harbor not been attacked in 1941, there would be 70% less nuclear weapons in the world today. Another revealed that had Mount Vesuvius not erupted, we would know far less about ancient Roman civilizations. I was in awe. Then I simulated the 2031 Netherlands climate treaty, which had broken apart. Altverse claimed that had it held, nothing would have changed, as pollution would have remained just as severe. Shocked, I recalled my grandfather's opposing views. Is this true? I asked the professor. He dismissed me, saying, of course it is. The AI simulation is very complex, so you probably misunderstood. I left, feeling very unsettled. After finding more unconvincing alternate realities, I needed to talk to an expert, so I caught a robocab and visited my grandfather's friend, Mr. Fred. His small home was filled with historical curiosities, like a flip calendar that showed today's date, May 13th, 2054. I told him about the potential bias of Altiverse towards certain realities when he said, son, this happens worldwide. Companies manipulate inventions for their own personal gain and to hide their mistakes. I bet that someone who influenced the separation of the climate treaty used Altiverse to cover their steps. Then we need to tell someone, I urged. Alex, it's your word against major corporations, he warned. Then what can we do, Mr. Fred? He thought for a moment before holocalling someone, the shimmering visual of a man appearing before us. Alex, meet my friend John from the World History Association. I explained John my findings when he revealed, Alex, we at the WHA are trying to build a verified historical event library with global experts giving their input on how that shaped the world. However, falsified entries are causing this to fail, and finding these entries is like finding a needle in the ocean. Disappointed, I thanked them and left. Questioning if history was ever real, I lost interest and my grades fell. To pass the term, I took an extra credit course on old TV shows. I chose an ancient one called Law and Order. I noticed that the detectives used some sort of powder to find the fingerprints in the crime scenes when an idea sparked. Immediately, I met up with Mr. Fred and John and explained about how we could use quantum fingerprinting, a developing technology that is used to find someone's online footprint. I explained that we could adjust it to record who gave the information, their profession, and even minor changes, making the data unalterable. John's skepticism was clear on his face as he shook his head and said, "This is a very expensive idea, as there's tons of information and it would take a great deal of time to build." "But John, this idea would work if we did it, so why don't we just do a small-scale trial?" Mr. Fred insisted. John thought for a moment, exhaled, and said, "Okay, let's do this." With volunteers of the WHA helping, we spent the next few months sketching architectures and researching how to adapt the quantum fingerprinting. I took a leave from college, much to the anger of Professor Altrial, who took it very personally. The next few years were grueling work for us, and we received great social pushback from those who benefited from the historical opacity. Fundings dried up, and we received subtle threats to end our work. However, we did not give up. The breakthrough came with the development of an unalterable quantum signature. Every archaeological find, new event, and eyewitness account would be marked with an individualized digital signature, and any attempt to tamper with this data would send an alert. So we gave the pilot to the WHA, who saw the potential and officially accepted the Quantum Consortium. Universities, governments, and libraries began integrating their historical databases into the consortium, including Altverse. Eventually, I resumed college, and Altverse showed much more reliable alternate realities. The future of our past was safe, as humanity could learn from an untainted history. And at that moment, I knew Grandpa would have been proud. Thank you.
It's 2056. The Metropolitan Museum of Art was no longer made of marble and stone. It floated, not in space, but on servers, millions of them. After New York City was displaced by rising tides and relentless storms, everything that could be saved was scanned, simulated, and stored in a global heritage vault, a digital archive orbiting Earth. I'm Kira, the youngest ever appointed historical integrity curator. My job? To make sure what people remembered was real, or close enough. It's a delicate balance between preservation and adaptation, finding ways to honor heritage in the face of ecological threats and constant urbanization. Meet Oxy, an AI assistant dedicated to preserving history. Case 1148, the Damascus Tapestry, digital reconstruction pending. Oxy, show provenance and metadata chain. Chain incomplete. Source data includes museum scans, private sales, and one synthetic AI-generated segment created during reconstruction. Synthetic segment? You mean AI filling gaps using innovation? You are correct, Kira. This innovation approach employs advanced machine learning algorithms and pattern recognition techniques to analyze torn edges and scorch marks, enabling digital models of the missing pieces, then is applied for immersive visualization. This artifact was smuggled in 2025, hidden in a collector's vault in Dubai, digitized in 2044, and now is displayed in over 800,000 classrooms worldwide. But no one ever questions accuracy until now. Oxy, show me the original damage reports and the notes from rescue archaeology. Opening original damage reports, showing scorch marks, torn edges, and a stitch name. A name stitched into the corner, Amira. None of this is in the digital depiction. Oxy, why are these details erased? Such imperfections were considered non-essential for voluntary educational use, removed for clarity and commercialization appeal. We're sanitizing history, smoothing out scars, removing the ecological and human intrusions that shape this legacy. I cannot stay silent and need to find a solution. Oxy, we need to implement a patch called the Curator's Code. Let's collaborate with more historians, archaeologists, and more necessary stakeholders to make sure the authenticity is preserved. After a few hours, the Curator's Code is in action. The hidden data is reattached. Every ownership dispute, Every note from historians, even the erased burn marks, it made the digital version more honest, messy, scarred, and more natural. We don't need history to be perfect. We need it to be resilient and truthful, an adaptation to our evolving understanding. So next time when you go visit the Global Heritage Vault and see that tapestry glowing softly, scars and all, remember this. This tapestry was claimed by 3 nations: Syria, where it was made, France, where it was housed, and the vault itself, which argues it belongs to humanity. How do you ethically decide who owns heritage when these artifacts like this are symbols of multiple cultures? Oxy, we will use rotational stewardship, which is an ethical model for managing shared cultural heritage. History is not just a story told by the victors. It's a living, breathing legacy, flawed, intangible, and beautiful. And it's up to us to keep it that way, through innovation, mitigation, and ethical stewardship. Truth is preserved, heritage is protected, and the future is secured through unwavering commitment to history and integrity. Thank you.
I'm going on a trip in my favorite rocket ship, zooming through the skies, little Einsteins. Psst. Psst. Hello, I'm talking to you. Calm down, me. It's not like an old Nefertiti bust is talking to you. Actually, I am. No, you're not. Yes, I am. Why did I think this trip to the Noise Museum in Berlin, Germany was going to be normal? My trips are never normal. Did you forget about me? No, but why and how are you talking to me? You're just a statue. Excuse me, I'm one of the most recognizable artifacts from ancient Egypt, showcasing my beauty and regal status. Okay, but how are you talking to me in 2055 if you're from ancient Egypt? Also, how'd you get here in Germany if you're from ancient Egypt? First of all, I can't finish my journey to the afterlife as I'm not in my native country and I'm separated from my funerary objects. Next, I was sculpted in Egypt, but then, in 1912, German archaeologists named Ludwig Borchardt and James Simon found me and misrepresented my historic significance to ancient Egyptian culture. Okay, so why did you choose to talk to me? I need your help to bring me back to Amarna, where I belong. Well, I have nothing better to do. Okay, I will aid you on your journey back to Egypt. You're probably going to need to know my name for this journey. My name is Vienna. Also, I have a quick question. How on earth am I supposed to help you? I have no idea what to do. Well, many pharaohs took great caution to hide their tombs. Well, that definitely didn't work. What do you mean? I mean, both Tutankhamun and Akhenaten, along with other pharaoh tombs, have already been found. Some tombs were even looted before they were found. Well, I'm not surprised my tomb hasn't been found yet. I'm the best at everything, especially hiding things. Also, Vienna, before the time I reigned with my husband, many pharaohs had been buried in ancient Thebes, where during the 17th dynasty, tombs were commonly looted. Many cultural and religious relics were taken and caused detrimental harm to our ancestors' journey to the afterlife. I'm starting to understand that the loss of funerary and relics creates an eternity of religious uncertainty for your culture. Okay, Nefertiti, let's look at some of the obstacles that countries have faced when trying to regain their cultural artifacts that were seized during times of war, looting, and when there was a lack of laws and treaties that would protect these invaluable pieces of heritage. All right, and I'm unsure if the returning of the artifacts will help get the souls to the afterlife, but I do know that our people will gain a wealth of insight into the lives of ancient Egypt. I know in January 2025, Germany returned ancestral remains to Australia. The remains were taken from the Torres Strait Islands, and the restitution was part of a greater effort of Germany to try to repatriate artifacts taken during colonial times. Some may argue that repatriating artifacts could diminish the recognition and fame that countries have and archaeologists hold. This may deter them from returning ill-gotten historic objects. Now, how might we increase the willingness of others to relinquish the antiquities of other cultures? Vienna, I have been here for over 100 centuries. I have no perception of how pharaohs and kings rule today. What can I do? I learned that commercial 3D printing was developed in 1984. That's one way to recreate you so that we can bring you back to Egypt and you can still be shared by others. However, that way is obsolete and quite frankly just plain boring. Oh, Vienna, I hope to never be obsolete, and I'm anything but boring. Exactly! I have an idea. In 2025, blending physical and virtual worlds became more widely used. Virtual reality specialists will be tasked with using that old technology referred to as augmented reality and adding a layer that allows for a sensory experience. You will not just see relics in their true environment, you will encounter it as tangible, touchable history. This will increase the willingness of countries to restore cultural ownership back to the lands from which they came, and you'll be evacuated back to Egypt so that the future of history is defendable around the world.
By the centennial anniversary of World War II, the world is changing faster than anyone could keep up. Flying cars soar above eco-cities. Artificial intelligence governs daily citizens. Schools have become fully holographic. Humanity lived under CiviNet, a global service who voted and shared ideas through neural wristbands. Progress is fast, too fast. But somewhere along the rapid climb to the future, something had been lost: the past. In a world flooded with viral feeds, endless challenges, and dopamine-triggered story syncs, the world had become more connected, more distracted than ever. Social media had turned into neural-based streams that rewarded instant emotion reactions. It was addictive. Most teens, like Maya Johnson's classmates, spent every free second scrolling, reacting, and chasing influence metrics called echo points. 15-year-old Maya was different. While her friends obsessed over augmented selfies and popularity strikes, she devoured stories of ancient cities, faded murals, and civilizations long buried under sand and time. She was especially fascinated with places like the Roman Colosseum, Angkor Wat, and the Mayan pyramids. These aren't ruins, she told her parents. They're voices still whispering to us. One day, a monster earthquake hit Japan, causing massive destruction. Everyone was fascinated by the crumbling of the ancient shrines. CivicNet was flooded with glorifying comments about the physical devastation, but nothing about the history that was being lost. That's when Maya realized the world didn't just forget the past, it ignored it. I want to do something, Maya told her best friend Noah, a tech prodigy whose wristband never stopped flashing alerts. If we don't protect our cultural sites, if we don't feel them, how will anybody care? Noah glanced up from his wristband. What if we made history impossible to ignore? They called it CultureLink, a fully immersive VR platform that let users not just view cultural sites, but experience them with all 5 senses. Walk the ruins of Pompeii, meditate in an ancient temple, watch the sunrise over the Great Wall of China. Neural syncing made the air smell of incense and the stones feel warm beneath your feet. CultureLink became an overnight sensation, but not for the reasons Maya had hoped. Instead of sparking deep cultural appreciation, it quickly became just another social media trend. Influencers posted virtual photos of them dancing at historical sites they've never heard of, and them dancing at Normandy going viral. Top 10 epic CultureLink moment videos engulfed CivicNet. Some users even modded ancient sites, adding neon graffiti or virtual party scenes. It was vandalism and entertainment, not preservation and reverence. Maya was furious. Despite the setback, something surprising began to happen. A small but powerful movement formed. Teachers using CultureLink for lessons, local historians giving tours, children organizing cleanup events at real-world sites they visit virtually. Maya realized there was still hope. Maya was invited to speak at the United Nations Summit, where global leaders gathered to brainstorm ideas how to preserve historical landmarks. Maya felt nervous as she stepped up to the podium. We are addicted to constant scrolling, to constant stimulation, and to constant instant gratification. But culture isn't just about the now, it's about the long story of us. Every stone we ignore, every ruin we erase, every petroglyph we desecrate, is a chapter lost forever.
And if we keep living in virtual loops, we risk forgetting who we are. Maya felt more confident as she spoke. She was ready to deliver her final words. Culture Link was never designed for smiley selfies at concentration camps. Culture Link was never designed for modding historical sites. Culture Link was never designed for dopamine hits. But Culture Link was designed for education. It was designed for historical preservation. And it was designed as a tool to let our past speak so we can help reveal our path to the future. To Maya's astonishment, the world leaders rose in unison to give her a standing ovation. Within a year, governments invested billions in Culture Link to help preserve historical sites around the world. Docents used Culture Link to teach students about their respective national treasures. People from around the world were taking tours, both physically and virtually, so they could learn the stories from behind the walls. Maya's mission has started with the fear that our obsession with what's next, we'd forget what came before. Now, people are listening, not hearing the stories of old, but writing a new chapter. Because the walls were never just stone, they're stories. And stories, if shared, can never be forgotten.
When Egypt died. And now, this is my last chance to protect what's left. I rush into the headquarters of UNESCO. My face is sweating because of French heat, but mostly because stress my plan won't work. As I hurry into the building, I see my fellow colleague Horace, who has my papers ready for me. I smile at him. He gives me a little assurance, but I can see the worry in his face as he says, Amina, don't mush up your words. Make your point clear. Make it slow. All of Egypt is with you. I smile at him. As I continue to walk towards the auditorium, I take one confident step towards the podium. I almost trip by keeping my head up high and continue to walk. I look into the eyes of the judgmental UNESCO members, their eyes peering into my soul. Butterflies are now swarming my stomach. And then, I begin my speech. Ladies and gentlemen of UNESCO, I have come here a message of urgency. I was there in the Great Pyramid of Giza, aka the Pyramid of Khufu, the oldest of the 7 wonders of the world, a monument to the greatness of Egypt, something that's been thriving for 4,000 years, that was destroyed by a human-made disaster that can be easily stopped with the right precautions. In the mid-21st century, the leaders of the world didn't care about our history. They didn't care about these important landmarks that were our future in the past. They didn't care about anything as long as we got their unlimited power that was completely safe. The government decided to place a reactor not exactly next to the pyramid, but close enough that something happened to the reactor, something horrible would happen to the pyramid. I warned them. I told them it was dangerous, but they didn't listen. I fought back with them. Me and my fellow colleague Horace told them it was horrible and would cause disasters, but no one listened. And in 2045, the builders started constructing the reactor. At first, the reactor worked perfectly. No one thought of it. But then, disaster struck. A severe sandstorm happened, causing the power lines and cooling systems to malfunction, causing part of the reactor to blow up. That blow caused a shockwave. When the shockwave hit, I could feel the land beneath me shift. I could feel the sand dunes move just a little bit. I could see the base of the pyramid move. And that's when I knew it would all come down. After tourism, people walking all over the pyramid with no care, the pyramids began to destabilize, and soon it caved in and then collapsed. That brought horror to Egypt. Its landscape completely changed, shifted. Its economy fell because of lack of tourism. Its economy fell because no one came. The pyramid was completely destroyed. But mostly, our heritage fell. Our pride fell. A gift, a marvel from our ancestors, gone, destroyed. That impacted all of the Egyptians, including me. The government did not want to talk about the disasters they had caused, so they unvoted it. People now can only visit the pyramid through VR, but it's not the same. We don't learn as much. We don't know how to build better buildings. We don't know how to build better stuff. We aren't affected here as much. We're not affected by the heart as much. But it makes you think, UNESCO, what is next? Will America melt the Liberty Bell for smart glass? Will China turn the beautiful terracotta warriors into rare earth minerals? Will India turn the Taj Mahal into an AI factory? Civilizations don't fall because of wars or plagues. They fall because we forget about them. They fall because we forget to remember. So UNESCO, I come here to beg to you. Help me make rules. Help me enforce rules to protect these beautiful landmarks that are our past and our future. So UNESCO, help me. Help me protect our future. Help me protect our past so we will never forget where we come from and never forget what we can do. So UNESCO, help me protect the future. Thank you.
The year is 2050 and there was a problem. People were trying to burn down the National Archives. Hi, my name's London, and this is how I got my first Nobel Prize. The air was thick with tension outside the National Archives as a crowd grew restless. I stood there, heart racing, as a man shouted for the destruction of the National Archives, a building that holds historical documents of our country's legacy. "Burn it," he yelled, raising a torch high. Panic surged through me as I pushed the front, desperate to intervene. "Stop," I shouted, my voice cutting through the chaos. "You don't understand what you're doing. That building isn't just a building. It is one that holds American history. And once it's gone forever. Is this really an ethical decision?" Faces turned toward me. Some were confused, but others listened, doubt replacing their anger. "And what do you purpose instead?" a woman asked. "Instead of tearing all of this important history down, allow me to make a solution for all of this. Just think of all the artifacts and symbols of our country in that building." "Why should we trust you?" a man exclaimed. "Because I promise to help. I will make an invention to help history once and for all," I said. I had no idea what kind of invention or what I was talking about for that fact, but I just knew I had to do something. Let me explain. You see, for the past 6 months, politics have been back and forth on tearing down the National Archives because business was very slow due to the attention to the new nano-based history simulator. A nanotechnology-based virtual reality set that simulates history up to 23,000 years ago. Local people say they feel immersed when they have it on. Eventually, people started to agree with the idea of tearing it down. I spent months in the lab after that, trying to think of a way to preserve our history, save every last bit of it. And one day, I had done it. As soon as I created it, I called the local news station. "Come to the news station immediately," they said. "Welcome to USA News, and today we have a very special guest. Please welcome the inventor that has helped history forever." Greetings, my name's London, and allow me to introduce you to the time lock. This is the invention that will help history once and for all. But to create this, we need sponsors and volunteers. The time lock is a building that will be built underground. With that being said, this building will only be open for 2 months a year to save on cost. I named it the time lock because it has an encrypted lock that is programmed to only open between those 2 months, then automatically shut, protecting our heritage for the remaining 10 months. And what does this building do exactly? This building will rescue archaeology for all of these documents by storing them below the surface, which is better for the documents, to which the building could be taken down for urbanization, but we will still have the important part, the artifacts, and it will still be open to the public. That is a wonderful solution. Thank you, Lennon, for giving us this wonderful idea. And just for that, we've decided to give you a $100,000 check to get you started. Thank you so much. No problem. And you heard it, folks. If you have any interest in helping, we'd be super grateful. That's it for today's news. After that, I had thousands of people volunteering to help me. And before I knew it, my building was built within 3 months. All of this hard work had finally paid off. My building had very tight security and a newly invented Vetrolift that takes you up and down the building. I am very grateful to announce that just 2 weeks later, I was given my first Nobel Prize. All thanks to
the time walk.
In 2047, everything is changing really quickly. New skyscrapers go up in a blink, tech centers are everywhere, and cities are growing at lightning speed. But with all this urbanization, pieces of the past are getting lost and impacting cultural heritage. That's where I come in. My name is Victoria, and I'm a rescue archaeologist. My job is to save history before it's gone forever. My team and I are called in to quickly preserve and excavate any archaeological sites that are threatened by construction and development. This morning, my smart assistant woke me up, and I saw a holographic figure pop up. Ping! It was Aviva, one of my colleagues at the APS, Archaeological Preservation Society. Urgent, tornado struck, ancient village partially destroyed, need backup ASAP. I quickly grabbed my gear and my skypod was waiting outside. It was the latest innovation that allowed everyone to travel in little pods that go from place to place in the air. Once I arrived, I went straight to the command room where my team was waiting. Ivy, what's the situation? I asked as I put up a chair. Ivy, our tech specialist, was already pulling up a digital model of the site. It felt immersive, as if it was really there. That's because we always scan our sites with rescue drones. These drones buzz into the air to scan the area and give us a full 3D map of the site. Ivy continued, the ancient village we've been working on has been destroyed by a tornado. We found some strange artifacts, but they're too damaged to fix. We have them in the storage, but we still need to find a way to put them back together. I nodded. This wasn't just another dig. These artifacts had been hidden for centuries, and we couldn't let it disappear. What are we gonna do? I asked. The room felt smaller than it was, the walls pressing inward. A clock ticked too loudly on the far wall. Tick, tock, tick, tock. Ivy tapped a pen nervously, and Aviva kept folding and unfolding her hands. The silence crackled like static. I stared out the window, lost in thought. Can we even save anything at all? Many generations lived before us and left behind objects that show us who they were and what they valued. It's really hard to remember everything about the past, like all the special memories and connections, when the objects that carry them are gone. People have always looked to their history to shape the present and plan for the future. Preserving these artifacts make our community special and give us a sense of identity. I think I might have a solution, Aviva said. I heard of something called the Archiscan. It was used to restore a mosaic displayed in the International Museum of History and Culture. Ivy jumped in. I've heard of that. It scans damaged artifacts and helps restore them without altering any details. I'm pretty sure we have it at HQ. We have all the latest gadgets here. Let's hope it works, I said. This is our only option. In the storage, everybody was very tense, not sure if it would work or not. We scanned all of the pieces, and it took a few minutes to search the database. But finally, it gave us results on how to restore and put them back together. It may not have saved all of the artifacts, but it definitely helped preserve some of them, and that alone is going to make a difference. After all, history helps us see the mistakes we've made, the achievements we've celebrated, and the lessons we've learned. If we forget our history, we risk repeating those mistakes or losing the values that shaped who we are. While the world is constantly evolving and rapid urban growth seems unstoppable, I remain committed to preserving the past, one artifact, one site, and one story at a time. Thank you.
Okay, kids, let me tell you a story. How about a story about the past? It was 2025. Okay, so there was a field trip. Let's just say it was at a museum. Hey kids, let's go to the museum. Hey, didn't we learn about that? Yeah, we did. It was pretty cool, right? Okay, let's see all the other artifacts. Okay, you done? I have a friend I might want to show you. Hello. Oh, I have a problem. So he had a problem. His problem was that the artifacts, they were getting too old to be used again. So people in 2045 would not be able to see those artifacts. or even landmarks. So the kids needed to find a solution. They went back home to their school. Okay, kids, you guys need to figure out a solution for the problem. So, how do you think we can tackle this problem? You guys all read your articles and find a solution. Hey, there's something interesting. In Pompeii, people are not rebuilding expensive artifacts. They're using AI robots and 3D scanning to fix together broken pieces. So, they went back to the museum. Hello, kids. John was the person who found the actual solution. So, John said his idea. So, in Pompeii, people are not rebuilding expensive artifacts. Instead, they are using AI robots and 3D scanning to fix together broken artifacts. With that, they can make the artifacts last longer. And they could do the same for buildings and landmarks. That's great ideas, but how are we supposed to make this enough for us to afford? Well, if more people come to the museum because there are more artifacts to show, then people could give more money, give more tips, and then you could have the money to afford. That's a great idea. Thank you. So, basically, the AI robots and 3D scanning can fix the broken artifacts. So, kids, do you want to try that out? But how about using the problem of AI cloning? AI cloning can report theft, and because people can use their AI cloning to make different voices and make someone saying to get them money, it'll be a problem with banks. So kids, you have a week to figure out that problem. Okay, well, before that, you guys learned about the story in the past. Did it actually work? Yes, it did, because when you go to the museum, it's 2045. Like they said, they wanted it to work in 2045. Do you still see artifacts? Yes. So that means it worked. That's how you know if it worked, because there's still artifacts, there's still landmarks that are still there. But then, why was it expensive? Well, all of the technology that was in it could have made it really expensive to afford. And people regularly, they can't afford that. So they needed to find a way. But with more artifacts, people might come. That's why AI robots and 3D scanning can help this problem. So why did you want us to learn about that? Because there was a problem and a solution to it. The problem was that there was artifacts that were being broken. How were they broken? Because of wars and people stealing. Things could be broken. After a long time period, they couldn't be lasting longer. That's why they had to been broken, because it was after such a long period. Okay, class, you're dismissed.
Signing of that treaty. I don't think that actually happened, but I'll get back to you tomorrow. Class dismissed. Okay, time to take the Hypertram home so I can check. What even is the History Scope? The History Scope is a virtual reality device that lets you immerse yourself in the past. The scenes are generated by AI. Huh. Maybe the AI renderings can be inaccurate? But how could the History Scope just create a whole new treaty? Mommy, someone in my class used the History Scope and they said that black people were never slaves. There absolutely were slaves. What exactly did he ask it? He asked, what was life like in the 1900s? And then he said, there were no slaves. And he showed me, and there really weren't any.
Oh, why? That's not right. I promise you, there were slaves. Slavery is a part of our history, even though it's painful, and it's very important that we never forget. Morning, Dr. Lin. You know, one of my students yesterday said this new history scope thing made a virtual reality of a treaty in 1764, which doesn't exist. Someone in my daughter's class even used it to try to change the past and not show slavery. Interesting. It sounds like if you ask it to show you something that never happened, the history scope is going to create a virtual reality that seems you, like with the treaty. Also, if you ask it for something that did happen, then say that the scene is inaccurate, then the AI will revise the scene to remove that part. These are big problems, but I also think we should be careful about telling people not to use the history scope. We just need to teach them how to use it correctly. Maybe you're right. That's all in the Biodome Census for today. Now, we have a special guest, Professor Nia Brown, to talk to us about the history scope. You see, most of the time the history scope's virtual reality is accurate, but the history scope always creates a virtual reality, even if it's inaccurate. So are you saying not to use it? I'm just saying that if you're not careful, then you might misunderstand historical events, and it's important to verify the information presented to you. Interesting. I guess we can all be more careful about the narratives we're being told. All right, class. Your assignment is to use the history scope to get a basic understanding of the creation of the Louisiana Purchase, then do more research and write an essay on it. When I first learned about the history scope, I thought it was bad news because it didn't always reflect an accurate version of history. Last month, I asked my students to use the history scope to help imagine what the 20th century might have looked like without the Civil War having happened. Last week, when we were talking about Peru, my class even used the history scope to go on a virtual field trip to the building of Machu Picchu. Technologies like the history scope are only going to become more advanced over time, and we can't just pretend they don't exist. If we choose to work with the AI instead of against it, we can improve not only the way we preserve history, but also the way we teach it.